So, for those of you that are brave, here is the deep dive. Please ask questions if there's anything you're not sure about. I enjoy the questions. And here I am. Bam, number 8. So, we're going to go right away to look for Cancer energy because we know that we're having a full moon in the sign of Cancer. And there's Cancer, the sign of Cancer. You see that? And then, without even knowing astrology, everybody knows what the symbol of the moon looks like, right? There it is. I know sometimes you see the moon turned around, right? Sometimes. But don't worry about that one right there. For right now, this is the moon we're looking at. So the moon, you see it 1621 in the sign of Cancer. Now, based on what I just explained, the sun should automatically be at the opposite end at 16 and 21 of what is opposite of Cancer. Do you know what's opposite of Cancer? Put it in the comments. What is opposite of Cancer? Opposite of Cancer? Let's do it. Capricorn is opposite of Cancer. And there it is. There's the sun. That's the symbol, the circle with the dot in the middle. 16 degrees, 21 minutes. And so this Cancer energy, we know that it's a full moon. So it's a release. Something is ending. And it has to do with feelings and family and emotions. Now, to give you an example, this chart, this full moon happens to be in the 5th house. 5th house is children, fun, joy, creativity, how I take a risk with my body. It can be romance too. So this would definitely be very family orientated because you've got the sign of family, Cancer energy, with the full moon there. The moon rules it, so it's powerful. And in the 5th house, you heard me say children. So this is big. Lots of stuff from childhood possibly coming up and being released. Maybe you had some pains from childhood, something about the past. Remember, the moon is also mom. So possibly something about mom is happening. Something is being released and ending, right? Some of us are losing our moms, right? Some of us, our parents are just at that age where it's the natural cycle. It's just a time of the ebb and flow and the ending is near. But something is ending. Now, could there be a responsibility involved with parenting or some sort of an authority figure? Absolutely. And I say that because the moon or the sun, the sun in Capricorn, Capricorn is responsibilities, right? It's duty, it's job, it's work, it's career. It's I've got to do this. And it's rules and structures of society. Think about that, right? Like Cancer is my home and my family. It's not just mom home, but it's my physical home, wherever I live. Whatever I choose to make is my home. And typically, when we make a home, a lot of the things we do, whether we're aware of it or not, are based on what our childhood was like, how our mom did or didn't do things. Think about that. What our home life was like. What did you repeat? Are you repeating something right now in your own home, whether it's the way you parent and mother, or whether it's the way you have your house set up? Whatever it is, does your house even look the same? What are you repeating? What cycle? What is it? Give me an example in the comments below. There's got to be something, right? I'm thinking there's got to be something because home is a big deal. And for some of you, maybe you didn't have a home. This still applies. The 4th house, there were many people who moved around when they were young. You know, they were tossed around, right? Or they were always on the road. Maybe their parents were, you know, in the military. And so they were always moving, or maybe they were separated or whatever. Like everybody has different stories. I have a friend where she grew up literally like in a van. Her parents were like hippies. And so they just traveled in the van together. And so she literally didn't have a home. I mean, her van was her home, but as far as like a location, she was always on the move. Right. So, what was your home life like? And are you repeating? And I will add that example, that person I talked about whose parents were like hippies in the van and living, and I don't mean hippies in a, you know, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. There's nothing wrong with that. That's your, hey man, if that works for you, do it. There's a whole lot of freedom with that, right? However, that child is now grown and she finds herself traveling a lot. Even though she has a home base, it is not uncommon for her to be on the road once a month traveling. She works. She's got a steady gig, a steady job, I should say. But she will definitely, whether she leaves town for concerts, she's just always finding different things to do to be on the road and go travel to. And so it's interesting because there's that part of her life we're traveling and being on the road, it feels like home in a way because that's what she grew up doing. You see? So everyone's home is going to be different. Everyone's going to be different, and everyone's job is and responsibilities are going to be different. So Capricorn and Cancer is the big deal here. All right. We're releasing something with our emotions, something from the past. It may have to do with the way we used to think of mothering, however, mothering was. Do you find that when you're with your children, do you nurture them the same way? Parents are different. I have a friend where her way of nurturing children and in the home is the way her mom did it. Okay. And the way her mom did it, she was real organized. She did it through food and cooking and making dinner for the family. She was very meticulous, even paid attention to the small things. She would make sure like that the basic foundational stuff was done really well. She was the one who was doing the washing, the ironing, the drying, the ironing, the folding. She had a schedule each day of the week. She was doing this and this and this, grocery shopping on this day, and so she just had it down to a science, right? That her home was exceedingly structured and it functioned. It functioned, for the most part, the structural parts of it functioned really well. But the nurturing part, the emotional nurturing, which the sign of Cancer is, not so good. Not so good. And this person I'm referring to, they have the sign of Capricorn in their fourth house, which means the mom, the way she nurtured was through material things and structure and organizing. So there was never there was never a hungry mouth. There was always clothing to wear, right? And it wasn't there. Nobody ever had to wear holes in their clothing. Like there was never anything like that. Sure, they may have been secondhand clothing, but everything was very well taken care of. And that has to do with how home works. And so because she had Capricorn in her home, there was a lot of rules, a lot of structure, a lot of organizing, a lot of preparation, and because it's for the long-term success, right? And so she had that in her home, right? So mom was doing that for her husband and the person I'm thinking of, she had two older brothers. So mom was doing that for three males and a little girl in the house, right? So the house had a masculine tone to it. Capricorn energy, masculine tone. And the friend that I'm referring to has Capricorn here in her fourth house. So these are just ways to give you examples of how you could understand what this would mean for you in your life. So a release and a let go because it's the it's the Cancer full moon. And this can be a very big release and a very big, we're done with this thing because especially for those of you who are literally in the United States, living in the United States. I don't know any other countries' charts in the way that I know the United States chart. And I know 16 degrees is very significant. 16 degrees is really significant in the US's chart. And I'll probably pull it up here in a minute for a third video so that we can go through that just to take a quick, interesting look. But it's a full moon, and those are usually a culmination and a heightening of emotions. Let's not forget that. I kind of tend to talk about that less. I don't want people to be upset, but there is something that increases our emotions typically. Okay. And so that can be for good or not so good, but there will be a closure and an ending of some sort. So look in your chart. What do you have? Do you have anything at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? You know what? Let's spread out the because Pallas Athena is at 1850, which is really 19. So we're going to say 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 degrees, possibly even in the sign of Cancer. All right. Do you have anything within that orb? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 degrees of the sign of Cancer, because there could be a bigger release. And then you're going to be looking for what house number is. See, this house has it number 5. Okay. So that's children, fun, joy, creativity, and romance. So possibly something with family, some sort of an activity they did for fun. Mom might have been included. It's now over. And it doesn't have to be something horrible. I'll give you another example. I have family members who live near my mother, and there's grandkids involved. And the way they have fun, sometimes they'll go to like the local bookstore and they'll have like a Harry Potter night. And my mom loves that. Like, so everybody gets into costume. And so they go there with their wands and stuff. And she goes there with the grandkids. And so that is absolutely a fun activity with a mother-like figure, somebody who is older, right? Older, because Capricorn is definitely an older person, and Cancer can be older as well. So when we think of possibly grandparents or a grandmother, it can be that too. Absolutely can be. It just depends. Everybody, I know people where their grandparents raised them. So even though they're their grandparents by blood, they have that mom grandparent energy. They have both, right? They have both. So that goes a lot of different ways. You may have a female in your life who wasn't your mom, but she may have felt like your mom, right? And it doesn't even have to be blood related. You can have females who are friends who feel like mothers. You can have males who are friends who nurture you in some way, who feel like mom, who nurture you the way mom would nurture us, right? And so nurturing can be done a lot of different ways, can be done with food, can be done with material things, can be done with just being there emotionally, being emotionally available to somebody. So a closure and an ending. And yeah, let's see what else is where. You see Mars? Mars is at 8 degrees. It's still retrograding, but it's moving super slow because Mars is going to stand still at 8 degrees. So it's this. I'm sorry, I didn't give you guys the date. That's crazy of me. First full moon 2023, January 6th. January 6th. Is that crazy or what? January 6th, right? How crazy. So yeah, Mars will be standing still. Um, I think 2 days after this, 7th and the 8th, I think is the day that Mars stands still because it's not a fast mover, but it's moving real slow here. So when you have a full moon and Mars is moving slow, the next thing you ask is, where's Mercury? Well, we know that by now, Mercury, see it at 17 in Capricorn, it already began its retrograde, right? See how it's in red? That's how I knew Mars was retrograding because it was in red. See Mercury 1743. And here's Mars again. And there's that red number. Right. So it's retrograding as well. So Capricorn energy. What is Mercury talking about? It's Capricorn. So it's government, it's businesses, it's structures of our society. I know right now when I'm doing this recording, they're saying Southwest Airlines is in the middle of a meltdown. They've canceled, I think they said over 70% of their flights. And it's not necessarily due to weather. I'm not sure what it's due to. I don't think anybody knows at this point. I'm not sure, but they're calling it a meltdown. And so structures of our society, people definitely count on the airlines as though they're a structure of our society. And our government has to step in, right? The Secretary of Transportation has to step in and figure out what's going on or whatever. And so that's Capricorn energy. It's the boss. It's the boss. So people in the government and big businesses. What are some more big businesses that are like structures of our society? I had some great comments from other viewers. Give me more comments. Give me more examples of structures. I always think of the post office, right? You know, anybody who collects Social Security, right? Think of that, like that administration itself. If you have someone who's retired, right, they're collecting. There's a system there. There are people who are employed, and those people work somewhere, and so they're probably using super old equipment. And I think that's even what Southwest mentioned that they were using. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. It was just a quick one channel that I watched or heard the clip from that there was a concern that there might have been like old equipment or something. I could be completely off, so I might even delete this out of it. I don't know. But that's part of it. That is part of it. Think of anybody who works for the government and they will tell you. Matter of fact, I saw a mail truck down the street a couple of months ago and they kept, I didn't know it was a mail truck. I even give this as an example, but you could hear somebody trying to start a car and they were going way beyond the normal, whatever it is, 5 seconds that you let that, where you let it try to spin and turn and catch. They were running that baby to the ground. It was like, like it wouldn't, they kept just doing it. And I was like, whoever that is, they're going to kill their starter. They're going to kill that thing, and do other damage. I didn't know because I don't know a lot about cars, but it was a mail truck. And the mail worker was just like, trying their hardest to get this thing to start up. And so there's equipment structures that are old and they're crumbling, right? Anything that has to do with Capricorn energy, when it's built to last a long time. But at the end of the day, nothing lasts forever, folks. At the end of the day, nothing lasts forever. Okay. And so you see now Pluto is here at 2750, right? And we see that Venus is in Aquarius energy. So Venus is my values. Aquarius is exciting and new. Science can be involved here. And I did mention Pluto. I already talked about Pluto, kind of a deep dive in the Mercury retrograde. Pluto bringing up things that were hidden, and Pluto holding people accountable. Accountability is Pluto, especially in the sign of Capricorn. It is all about you didn't follow the rules and the bell's tolling. That's Pluto. This is a look and what we could likely expect to hear in the news. So again, check the degrees in your own chart, folks. Check the degrees. I'll have the details below. And then, yeah, we're going to pull up the United States chart for a third video on this one. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Take care. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.